hello, everyone. I am Deborah Filbert, your host today of If I Can, You Can Talk Show. And I want to say thank you to all of guests who have every week graciously send comments. And last week, I loved the comments that when we spoke about domestic violence in the comments. And I just hope that you guys got some good nuggets from last week's show. But today, we're going to have another guest on, and I will tell you a little more about her in a few. But I first want to thank, our viewers in Africa, New Zealand, England, in Dominica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and all the other Caribbean islands that we are right now streaming from. I want to say thank you guys for your being continuously coming on the show and looking at us, seeing the show. So also, I want to say, you know what? For now, we are on Facebook right now, and we are on Roku, and we are on Amazon Live. So I want you to go on and share. Share. Because the more you share, it's the more people we get to help around the world. So just share. And I'd also like to tell you a little bit about what If I Can, You Can is. If I Can, You Can was formed during the COVID season. We can say COVID time. We're still in the COVID, right? But early. And it's you going, and me just going back and getting out of my comfort zone and sharing my story, and I realize it's really helpful because when you share your story, you come out of that uncomfortable zone you're in into more comfort zone. So for me, coming out and doing that, sharing my story, and I realize it has helped me a lot to build more confidence in myself, and I'm confident I can do anything that I want. And so if I can, you should can was birthed out of me coming out of my comfort zone into the world that I'm really supposed to be in. So it's even doesn't matter what, if you have abuse or verbally sexual or whatever abuse it is, you can always come out from that and do better things in your life. And sharing your story, having people share this story can help them too. Again, we are on Amazon right now. Right now, we're streaming on Roku, we're streaming right on Amazon, and we are on Facebook Live. So please go on and continue to share. Continue to share. So today we have a phenomenal guest, which is a great friend of mine. We did Toastmasters together. We were district level together, and we are girlfriends, you can say. And I will tell you, she is a driving wife, and she's a mom and grandma. And it's so phenomenal to see when you're a grandma. That's the best time in your life. And she is all now seeking new adventures. So from a grandma seeking new adventures in her life. She is also she just started her own business, and she will tell you a little bit more about it. And she's also part on the marketing person for for Joyful Heart, which is a nonprofit that we all are in. So she's our marketing person for Joyful Heart. So in a few, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be back with our guest, AJ, AJ Lee. welcome back. And Adrian, welcome to If I Can, You Can Talk Show. And again, today, as I told you before, Adrian and I became friends during our Toastmasters leadership. We were the district leaders in Toastmasters. And she's still carrying on that order. She's now the upcoming public relations manager for District 44 here in Georgia. So she's now going to take, given that role to someone else, and she's on to another role as president of Top Shelf Toastmaster. So, and that's where AJ and I met, and we call ourselves sisters and friends. And she's also a partner with me in Joyful Hearts, which is our nonprofit that we run, helping kids in college. And now we're going to add on more, where we're going to help moms and help moms to really fulfill their purpose by helping these kids too. So, because when kids go to college, you can say they don't have enough money, especially minority kids. They really do not have the money to pay. And these kids always have a gift that they want to do something, but they end up back in that circle, in that cycle. That cycle that goes around. They go back into that poverty cycle. But if we get those kids and the moms together, we can break that cycle. And so H is going to be our man, the one who's out there, and she's going to help with the moms, to bring that, give them that good thing to help them have their kids complete that college and break that cycle. So thank you, AJ, for coming on again. Thank you for taking that time to come up and share your story with the world, because we know as mothers, as grandmothers, we all have a story. We all have, and it's always said, like attract like, because I met you and I didn't really know your story. Just one day when I heard your story, I realized we went through that same cycle in life. So, which is good, and see where you came from, but what the life you have with and your kids, how they are all successful right now. So, I am so grateful that we are friends and we are sisters this way. All right, so one of the things that when you come on the show, one of the first things we ask you is it's about telling a story. So I will have you, tell your story now, and then we can talk after. So just share your story with the world, with the audience out there, because you know what, you may be helping somebody else who is sitting there and afraid to share their story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Deborah, for even inviting me on your show. I'm very excited to be here with you as my sister. So sharing my story. I haven't shared it too much. As you said, you didn't know before, and getting to know each other that we've found out we had a lot of likenesses and stuff. So growing up, didn't come from the best of homes as far as feeling nurtured and secure. My mother was, she was an alcoholic and got very abusive. She was physically, verbally abusive, and my father just more verbal and absent. When you have one parent working, usually that one is gone a lot and taking trips and stuff, and didn't really know what was going on with me growing up. Had no idea about the abuse I was going through, even though I thought he did at the time, because my mom would always say, don't tell your father, I'll tell him when he gets home. And so, as a kid, not only are you kind of entranced into thinking this is normal life, you believe your parents still, even in the midst of being hurt, that's the only outlet you have for nurturing and for growing. And to find out later in life, all the things that I was robbed of as a child and the security that I should have had. So if it weren't for my aunt, I wouldn't have gotten into church at such a young age. She would diligently pick me up with my cousins, and we would go to church on Sundays, and she would make sure that, I had the word and the spirit within me at that time, because neither of my parents are believers. And so it wasn't until, I'd say 16, I would pray diligently, just praying over my parents, praying that they would be saved, and really, just heartbroken with the thought of them going to anywhere but heaven with me one day. And so as I got into my teens, I started to get into a little more trouble, getting with kind of a crowd that I, wouldn't say we weren't terrible, but we weren't good either. So, we were kind of in the middle of the road, just teens, I'd say, but not really getting into big trouble. And unfortunately, around 16, I remember my grandfather sent my cousin and I to a Christian retreat camp. And I was so excited about it, just really learning. And I still remember this day, the storyline behind the retreat was, why does God let bad things happen? And it was pretty impactful, why does God let bad things happen? And then just how it works through it and stuff. Well, no sooner than I got home, I was hanging out with my crowd that I probably shouldn't have been, but my boyfriend at the time decided to take from me what I was saving for marriage. And it was at that point that I was like, you know what? There's no way there's a God. If he's going to let all these things happen to me, there's no way, with the physical abuse, the verbal abuse I was going through, now sexual abuse that I just endured. And I was like, I can't believe anymore. I just don't. And I stopped praying since I was 16 for almost 20 years. And went through, basically I call it walking in the wilderness for almost 20 years, trying to figure it out on my own. Got into I started getting in more trouble at that point. I started, I'd say at some point, drugs and alcohol and running with an even worse crowd. And at that point, I'd been a mom and divorced and had a couple bad relationships. And it just goes on and on, for the 20 years. And then finally, the year after 2009, not only did I get remarried, but my husband now and I found our way back into church together and got saved, got born again, and realized that he was there the whole time watching over me.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, okay, so you were there and I didn't believe in you, but you still, as I say, my angels are probably working overtime. And because there's so many instances I shouldn't be here anymore from the reckless lifestyle I was living and the people I was around. And, I guess one of the big jokes now is how many moms or wives sit and watch CSI or Forensic Files. That's been me the last few months, is getting into that show. And I'm like, that could have been me. That could have been me. That, oh my gosh, it's just this eye opener of all these instances of these women getting into these situations. I'm like, that should have been me. That could have been me too. And so I started thinking, all right, God, you've got to have some kind of purpose for me, because the fact that I'm still here, I don't know. It was eye opening. And I spent the last 9 years in Toastmasters trying to find my voice. And I figured out finally that there is still value in here.
Yeah.
And I want to now help other young women who've been through what I've been through find their voices and realize that they have value quicker than it took me. So they don't have to spend decades figuring it out like I did, and really want to be there to support them. So I feel like that's my purpose through the pain, right, is being able to help and mentor other young women.
I got you, because I'm listening to you and I'm like, okay, I used to say that, but I was sexually abused from the age of 5 until I was like 11. So it was, I was like, God hated me, You didn't see God, and then it's growing up in a place where you couldn't talk about it. You couldn't talk about it because you were wrong. And so, my mom wasn't there. My mom was there, but she wasn't there. You have people around you, but it's you live in a community, and that abuser must probably abuse so many of the kids, and you can't talk about it. So I understand your opinion, because I used to say, "Where's God? God, where are you?" And then your parents would take you to church, and then I hated God more. You gotta hate him more. But coming back and looking back now and today, and I realize everything that happened to us is for a reason. God know what's going to happen to us. You know, I
Yes.
was called this Psalm 139, and I only learned about that. It's maybe a couple years ago when I had a spiritual director who I had a meeting with, you know, because I had to find myself in God. Even though I know Him, I love Him then, but I still had to find because I'm still fighting with my demons. I used to say it's like the demons
Yeah.
because and he said, go read Psalm 139, put yourself in it. And when I put myself in it, it's like, oh, so you knew this all the time. You let me go through it. But now I'm learning what I'm doing now. He was preparing me for what I'm doing now. So you know what? He was preparing you for what you're going to do now to help others. Because the children, I always look at the children and the young moms, they're the future,
Mhm.
right? And if we can get the moms or the dads, if we can get the kids, we can
Right.
always help them to break that and even not being able to afraid to speak about it, and not being able to, you know, and you came like looking at it now. I look at we came from different backgrounds. Okay, I'm on the African American side, you on you know the Asian side, but when you look at it, we all go through that same thing. Nothing different.
Right. Yeah, the
Nothing.
feeling is internal. The internal feeling is still the same, no matter where you're from. The shame, or sometimes you might feel guilt or embarrassment, and you know you just really internalize all those negative feelings and you harbor them, and it's really hard to speak about because one, you don't know who you can trust anymore. You know,
Yes.
and two, like with me, I never even told my dad. At that point, my mom had left, and it was just my dad and me living at home, and he was out already dating somebody new, and so that's when I started, you know, running out with my friends and everything like that. But when that had happened to me, and I never told my father because I knew if I told him, he would have killed the boy.
Wow.
And I just, I don't know why I felt like protecting him at that point, but I just maybe I didn't want to see my dad in jail or something, because then I would have had to live with my mom. I don't know. No idea what was going through my head at that point, but it wasn't until, you know, a couple decades later when I told my dad about it. He's like, why didn't you tell me? And when I told him, you know, I said, I think you would have killed him. He goes, yeah, you're
Yes,
probably
I
right.
would. Yes, I would. It's definitely yes, I would do that.
Yeah.
And it's sad. So you know, we still have that's going on in this world today. That's going
Yeah.
on in this world today. Where I'm in Africa now, and when I read the statistics and you see women, you hear the woman, it's going on today still. Even all what we
Yeah.
have going on, and it's the young kids they're doing it to. It's the young kids, and then the parents, the kids all can't even communicate with their own parents.
Yeah.
It was sad, and you know, but you know, thank God you found God. You had someone, and listening to you, I had a godmother who lived across the street from us. When she said, "Oh, can you come to the church with us?" I think I was 11, 12, something around there. You want to go to church with us? And that's every Sunday or every evening or every time they're going out. That was the time. I was the happiest little child because she didn't have a daughter. So I was so happy that when she called and she said, "You going?" And I'm gone. I am gone. Even though I have to sit in the church and you know, but I am going. So I thank her and I thank God for them because you had your aunt. I had my godmother
Mhm.
and godfather, my you know that, but I had them that would say, "Oh, let's go to church," right? And I don't care if I had to walk 10 miles to go that time. I'm going. So that is so awesome. And something else you said. So you said with your mom, you know, sometimes when you look back at that, what did you think about your mom? Because for me, now that I'm older, I'm like, was my mom going through the same thing that she think it's okay? Or what would you
Yeah. Oh gosh. Of course, it's not even until you get older that you even have the wherewithal to think about what happened in my mom's past. You know, what did she go through as a child? You know, being that she was from Thailand and
right?
raised in a home where her father, from what I understand, and I only met him once, was he didn't believe that women needed an education. And in Thailand, after the fourth grade, you have to pay for the education. So he paid for her brother to go to school, but not her sisters.
Wow.
So she was really, in a suppressed society where, when it comes to women, that it just wasn't worth it to him to send any of his daughters. And just knowing that part, trying to understand her culture. And then when she came over here, of course, we clashed a lot because me being an American and, we lived in Florida and I was going to the beach and, her culture, if you have a tan skin means you're lower class because you work in the rice fields.
Wow.
Yeah. And then if you have lighter skin means you're higher class. This is Asia, because you don't work outside. So women with light skin are supposed to display a higher class. So my mom would get so mad at me because I come home with a tan. I'm like, we live in Florida. We're going to the beach. What do you want from me? So we were butting heads all the time. That was just one example of, how her culture and my culture in the States would clash because she just had completely different ideas of how I should be raised, and what I should do and what I learned. So it was a lot. And then I think she was really just, as she got into the alcohol more and more, maybe because her family's in Thailand, she didn't have a connection here. And I can only imagine at this point, looking back, what her demons were that she was going through to make her do the things that she did to me.
Wow. That, I think I remember once, I think I was 15. 15. I know I used to rebel a lot because I couldn't talk, so I had to rebel. I was the one rebellious child. So, but the thing about it, I remember when I said I wanted, and you talking about that now, because my grandmother who raised me, she was not African American. She was, I think she was Portuguese. She was from Portugal. So she has a great long hair. She's like fair skin. So I would say she doesn't like me because I'm black. But my sister, if you look at my family, I have a sister who's like beyond perfection. In I am like that, and she's my sister after me. So I wasn't feel like she doesn't like me because of my color of my skin. But one thing she said, thinking about what you said about your mom, it's that a woman should always get married and be a housewife. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I want to be that. I don't want to cook. I don't want to do that. And my grandfather was the one who said, when she said, oh, no, you got to learn to sew, cook, and you're not going to go to high school. You're going to think. And I said, no, I'm going. And he said he had to fight for me to go because he's like, it's woman's lib. And he said with woman something, and she could do whatever she wants. And that's the way she kind of let go of me, but I'm happy it happened because I set the tone for my sisters. So now your culture, what my grand from Portugal, she had that same idea, that woman, but the color, and I used to get mad at her because when my daughter was born, I'm like, she would love my daughter, but because she was light skinned.
Wow. Okay.
But you know what? I appreciate her for what she was doing for me now in life, right? But back then, I'm thinking back, it's a culture thing. It's something from different cultures. Because I'm like, no matter what, I always say we have the same blood. It's no different.
Yeah.
We have the same veins running in our body. No different what color I'm at.
Yeah. It still blows my mind that, and then you wonder why we have such clashes with culture to culture when you even have the same culture that discriminates their own skin colors.
Yes.
Just because of a social status. And I was like, Mom, you need to get over yourself because
it's tough. It's like, why? I'm saying black. I'm dark skin, I'm light skin, but hey, you don't think, but my sister, if you see my sister, myself, you put us together, you're like, okay, she's not your sister. But then you get ready, I am not pure blood because I'm mixed with something else. So when my daughter was born, it was so funny that's how the racism come in. I was in the hospital, my daughter was born, and a woman walked up to me and she's like, "That's not your child." And she's like, "You have to do something on your husband because that's not your child." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" My son was the same. And my third daughter was like me. So I'm like, you don't tell me that. So it's the same thing. People feel that because you light, and they always look at you lighter skin, you darker skin. It's all over the world. It's not only here in America. It's not only in Africa or anywhere. It's all over the
Yeah.
world. And you had
Yeah.
that childhood, right? And you're an adult now. You're a grandma now, and it's and it's still happening. It's still
Yes,
happening today. And so I know you have kids, right? You have 3 kids.
I do, and they're all mixed. They're mixed up more than I am. So they have my Thai and white, and then their dad. Well, my daughters are their dad is Black and Puerto Rican,
Wow.
and then my son, he's mixed with African American as well. So they're all just mixed and beautiful. I think mixed children make just beautiful features and skin tone, and just I think they're great.
So does your mom accept them now or not?
Well, my mother has since passed. It's been about 17 years, but she did love when she met my daughter. She fell in love with them, of course. And, at that point, it doesn't matter. It's like, who is this woman? This isn't the woman who raised me. And they're like, we love grandma. I'm like, you don't know her like I do. I don't know who this nice person is who loves you guys.
I know they change. At least one thing we have kids so they can change their mother. But yeah, they can change
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny how you can think. But and another thing I know you love doing, your mom. I met your granddaughter. I love her to pieces. It's like she is the bomb. So
Yeah.
your husband. So sometimes you come out of abusive relationship and you meet your husband, and for me, I choose wasn't to go to remarry anymore. Because for me, in my mind, I'm going to still attract that person who I just left,
Mhm.
that abusive. For you, how was that transition coming in from being in that abusive relationships and all that stuff like that, and coming from childhood to, and I sure because what I realized, coming from abuse, you attract abuse.
Yep.
You attract the wrong people. So that's what
Yes.
I know. That's a standard thing. And a lot of women I speak to, I see it's the same thing. So for you, we have women out there and they think, oh no, that's not true. But for you, what was that transition? How was it for
Well, you're right. My first few relationships after getting out on my own, my first husband and I, we fought a lot. My boyfriend after that was very abusive. In fact, he got arrested for hitting me. I had a husband after that who was verbally and sometimes physically abusive. And the track record did go on. But somehow with this one, I obviously God had a plan, and my husband, he was right. Yeah, this wasn't my choice. Obviously, I didn't choose this one because I don't choose right. So he was put in my path, and Dustin has come from an abusive home as well. He had a stepdad who was very abusive to him and his mom. So I think because of that, Dustin has a reverend kind of respect for women, a very protective nature for women. And he's absolutely wonderful. He's never raised his voice to me. He has never lifted a finger. He's, to the point, like, I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, are you okay? I would be, back in the beginning, because I was going through my healing in 2009, first couple of years was very volatile, like, still screaming. And he's just, why are you screaming? Like, why aren't you fighting with me? So we've each taught each other patience in different ways. He's taught me how to just talk, that it is possible just to sit and talk things out instead of having to scream and shout and raise fists and stuff. And that plus Toastmasters, I believe, has been the guiding forces behind my ability to communicate properly now. Especially when you come from a home where there is my parents would fight a lot, and my mom would throw dishes. She was very, very violent, and she would. And I joke about this now but she would chase my father with knives and stuff, just this crazy little Asian woman, just, and of course, when I got married, I thought, well, that's what you're supposed to do when you fight. And I would chase my husband with knives and throw things at him and then wonder why he left. So it wasn't until many years later, looking back, yes, you do find the patterns and stuff, but some of that came from me as well.
Yes.
It wasn't just all my husband. That was a lot of me who had some deep rooted issues that I had to resolve. Yeah. So it's been a work in progress, and my husband has been a saint waiting for me to work out this. But I think on top of learning patience, I've just gotten older and tired.
It is so true, because the thing about it's you. That's why I always wonder. For me, that's the fear. It's like I don't want to go into that relationship, because I dated people and then I realized it's like, okay, these are people that attract him. No, I don't want that. I'm not gonna go through that. I'm not gonna go for anybody to use me anymore. I prefer just live my life and enjoy my life the widest, but you still hurt. You still have that hurt. So have you ever get counseling for it? Some people don't believe in that. Some people just keep going that way. For me, one morning I woke up and I'm like, I need to talk to somebody. I need to let out everything that's been hurting me from a child to an adult.
Yeah.
It would make me better, make me happier, and everything. But I realized I was transforming it to my kids. For me, talking, communicating, communication-wise, I realized that, I am leaving, taking all what I got, my kids, and I'm just doing the same with my kids. So did you seek counseling on that, or you just?
I did. Been in therapy, and I feel like I've been in therapy most of my life, but recently actually seeking it out for myself to understand and try to dig out those demons from my past and work through it. And I found that it really wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And it's still a work in progress, and there's still layers as I heal. And then there's, because you're only going to dig down as far as you're comfortable with, and maybe a little bit more than that. So then as time goes on and you're able to peel back another layer and deal with that as well. So I feel I'm at the point now that I'm understanding myself better. I'm better able to communicate. And a lot of that came from just finding that I still have that inside, because that's one of the reasons I think when we go from relationship to relationship without healing, it's not always that other person who's probably having that issue. It's probably, we have to look within ourselves. Like I said, what was I bringing into the relationship that was not healthy? Because that person could have been thriving with somebody else who was healthy, but then I come along and I'm like, mistrust and waiting for the aha moment that he's going to mess it up, or, just constantly on edge, like you're walking on eggshells. And now that I've come to the point with Dustin that we have a good relationship of talking things out, he's taught me how to be able to just communicate without having to scream and yell. And he listens, and, vice versa, have that mutual respect. We're doing phenomenal at this point, but there was a point he and I had to go to marital therapy, and we're having some issues. And honestly, I tell people the 5 love languages saved our marriage.
Wow. Wow.
I'd have to say just learning what I needed personally, and then also what he needs, really opened up the lines of communication to say, okay, so you need words of affirmation. Well, I need quality time. So what are we going to do about that for each other?
Yeah.
And that
Because
was huge.
it's huge because in marriages, you always say that communication is one of the best thing. But you said something just now about when you went to therapy, and I remember the first time I went to therapy, I was just like little, just like I was just doing like the surface, not the hardcore part, just the
Yeah.
surface, like on the surface. But every time I go back, and the first time when it really came out is when I started to cry because I realized I needed to let it out, and I was just crying. I must have stayed in that therapist's office for longer than the hour that I had to stay because all I could do was cry, 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 and not talk about it.
Mm,
But then it got easier and easier after. So much
yes.
easier that I had to go right. It took me right back to my childhood. And that's where the hurt was from
Yes.
the childhood coming up. And I'm like, yeah, your mom not there. And you talk about the abuse started from childhood. And we
Yeah.
just walked with it and we could, and when we walked into it, we get, and then when we attract that abuse from the childhood, then the people who see us who abuse us again already it's like I don't know if it's like a magnet or something that force. It's like, okay, she has been that bad or abusive child. Let's come on. And then another one coming, another one coming. You can't talk about it. So you go. And in our country, we say young ladies must be seen and not heard. So many
Mm,
young women walking around with this pride about them, but they're hurting inside because nobody can see it. And so that's
yeah.
such a great thing to go out and seek confidence. And even
Yes.
see girlfriends that you can talk to. And I would say I was so like I never really had girlfriends really. I had friends because for me being abused, I put on weight as a child. So people used to I used to get abused like that, but I used to get people like really um they call me names. Like they really say, oh, you fatty or you this, and so I always the thing. So I never really had. I just had like I can't even remember only one or two friends that I remained with as a child. But as an adult, I when I was 18, one friend I met and we best friends to today. And that's why for me I kind of stay away from friends because they use you. I felt that as a child. So coming back when I went to counseling, that deep dive because I never spoke about it. And
Yeah.
that's it. And even your mouth. And it's like all you learn to do is scream, yell, because you can't do anything else. And
Yeah.
you fight back and you couldn't fight back. And I remember I come with a knife to my husband because that's the only thing I could do.
Yeah.
That's the only
Yeah.
thing
See?
I could have done. So it's tough as us women out here that to go through that and things. So now we can sing back now. We can go to women so we're about to help. For me, I'm out here in Africa and I'm going to try to meet a lot of women who I can help, right? Because I'm definitely going to be sharing my story. I'm not afraid to share it now. But anywhere in the world, I am going to share it because it's have too many women out there and men too. Because now I realize it's not only women.
Right.
I
Yeah.
am like, what? I was like, yeah, men too,
Yeah.
right? And from young
Oh,
boys,
absolutely.
from even our age, like younger men, young boys, men will be doing this for centuries now. And the men didn't talk out about it, but the woman's the one who's speaking out. You're gonna see it more with the woman. And so I know in Joyful Hearts and in your when you start with your own thing, own nonprofit, your own organization, you're gonna start sharing, helping women in who went through these abuses, who went through that situation. What that, how are you going to implement that to them? How are you going to, reach out to these women?
Okay. Good question. So I'd say at this point, everything I do, and it's from God. And you know it is because
I knew that.
because I've found out that there are things that are coming towards me, and I'm finding my journey now and my purpose, as I said, through the pain, and knowing that it's from God because it's bigger than I am.
Right.
And the vision scares me And I wouldn't put that in my head or in my heart or my spirit, because I was like, no, I don't think that's possible. And then, of course, God goes, yeah, it is. So, interestingly enough, probably about a month ago, I happened to be listening to a podcast. I've been getting into them a little bit more because I'd started my own. And I did a little backwards where I started my podcast, and then I was like, wait, maybe I should go research and figure out what other people are doing. And I went and listened to some other podcasts. Well, I happened to come across Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, who are also motivational speakers. And, you know, I'm sure everybody knows the name Tony Robbins, but I had never followed him anywhere in my life that, you know, I've heard of so many people talk about him, but never experienced any of his talks myself. So on this 5-day adventure of Own Your Future, they were talking about how our learning basically is not going to be from the brick and mortar college institutional type anymore, that we're moving into the knowledge base, get to know something from somebody specific. So you're getting mentored or coached or, you know, something of that facet. And I was pretty interested listening to this. I was like, you know, that's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking about doing, you know, with the mentoring of the young women. And as I got more and more day by day into each of the sessions, before the 4th day started, I felt in my spirit as I was outside, I was pulling weeds in my garden, and it said, and you know, my spirit says, you're going to go help the young women who have been through the trauma and abuses that you've been through.
Wow.
And at that point, I'd only been going back just a few years. Like I was like, I could teach about, I don't know, I was, you know, piddling around with gardening, I do crafting, I sew, what kind of things do I do? And then when that hit me that morning, I was like, oh, we're going that far.
The same thing happened to me. I understand. And that's why we were children.
It was so powerful. And and I was just like, oh, so we're digging that deep. Got it. And I went and told my husband about it, and he says, okay. And he supports anything I get into. He's like, sure, you can do it. Which is very opposite from what I've dealt with in my life of, are you sure about that? Are you sure you can do that? Yeah. You know, the naysayers in your life. So I got into what they were doing, the course, and it's called Project Next. So I'm learning how to build a course online, and they're walking us step by step through it to put it together. And I could even write a book from it as well. So that's the steps I'm taking. And I just knew it was God. I was like, oh boy, I didn't think I was ready, but he thinks I am.
It's the same thing I said when I joined Toastmasters in 2015, and I started, I'm like, I could tell people I mimicked through my first, because I didn't want to speak about, you know, and I started the nonprofit. I really didn't want to speak, but God been telling me, hey, you can do it. You can, all I want you to do is the children, because the children are my future. But I fight with God a lot. Trust me, we fight a lot, because I'm like, nope, I can't do this. No. But then you see the steps he gave you. He put people in your path to show you what he wanted you to do. And I'm like, no, I'm like, okay, I have to go to learn to speak first, God. I have to go to learn to speak first. I don't speak. I have to go. I can't, you can't. But I end up in Toastmasters, and within the next 4 or 5 years, I did what I had to do. And then now, all of a sudden, remember I told you guys, I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to be a travel agent. I did say it when, I'm going to travel the world. And I didn't say speak, but my thing was going to travel the world with kids, right? I end up in a talk. But it's fulfilling, because I'm seeing what God is saying, is that you do the talk show, you can go anywhere in the world, you can still talk to my people. And
Yes, it's amazing, especially in the past year of everything that we've gone through as the world in its entirety. And there are those of us who thrived in it, because they're like, seeing the benefit, the opportunities in it. At first I was like, yes, no work for just kind of just sit at home and, let the world just be at peace for a moment. And it was just, just where it's come through to this point. And I'd have to say, one of the things that when you look back, a lot of times you don't realize the progress you've made until you look way back and see the whole thing. So when I got involved with this project, and there's a community base that, we're on a group in Facebook and we encourage each other, how many people were saying, I'm too scared to go live. I'm too scared to speak in front of people. I'm too scared, and they were coming up with those excuses. And I'm sitting here like, wow, I am really ahead of the game here, because I've been doing Toastmasters since 2012. I've been doing my lives for the last few months. I've been, because God has been placing the orders of my steps, and I've been obedient and following them, even though it was uncomfortable then. But now I see I'm already way ahead of the other, of the game. And yeah, that's when you feel that and internalize that, it's so powerful, and you just want to spread that to everybody.
And look at me, I look at myself, I'm live in front of millions of people, and I'm like, I never thought I'd be doing this.
Yeah.
It's like it's just making you, but it gives me a joy doing it. And I commend Toastmasters for that, because Toastmasters have brought me out a lot of my comfort zone.
Yes.
A lot of my comfort zone. And so for me, doing this now, I'm like, oh, this is part of my Toastmasters. If I didn't do Toastmasters, I would not never been doing this. Right? And I'm looking at
I'm right there with you.
Interviewing people, going here. My next goal is I'm in Dubai in December. All these different things. And sure, when I go, my camera, and the funny part, I told my kids when I was packing, she said, my daughter's like, Mommy, you carry? I said, no, I have to carry my equipment. Yes, I'm not going to walk without my equipment. I got to talk to people. And which is good, because now we can share. And I love that you're doing a podcast, because people can listen to that podcast and your story. And for me, I'm reading a book, so I'm working on the book too. But by just sharing that story, because we live in that legacy, not only for ourselves, but for our kids and for future generations.
Yes.
So that's what I look at, and I'm like, I'm so grateful and so commended that we can do this. At least you're doing a podcast, and with Joyful Hearts, I know we're gonna be
Yes.
even so many followers. And look at it, it's Joyful Hearts.
We are Joyful Hearts.
Joyful Hearts, bringing joy to the young people. But now it's going to change, bringing joy to the kids and the moms, or the kids and the dads, because the dads who are stay-at-home dads, or dads who take care of their kids. They're without a mom, but they has been abused. It's so much. We're not going to look at it. And I'm praying that we can go global. And that's in my head. Like after our meeting, I'm like, we should go global. Because I'm doing that, we should go global. But we still got to pray about that. But it's that thing about that. So we can talk a little bit more about your Toastmasters, Jenny.
Yes, which has been amazing. I'd say so. In 2009, after I got saved, got baptized, got into their school of discipleship. And it took 2 years to get through it. And at the end of that, they said, okay, now you can lead a small group. And I was like, okay, I can lead a small group. So I had a health and wellness small group for women in the church. And we would meet after church, once a week. And in that time, I had to open up with prayer in front of these women, and I was, oh my gosh, I was so scared. I was just petrified. And so what I started doing was writing my prayer before the group. And when everybody would bow their heads, I would have it on my lap and just read it. And so one of my friends who I met through that, she nudges me one day and she says, I think you could use Toastmasters. And I looked at her and I said, I don't drink. And she says, no, it's not for drinking. She had explained to me what it even was. I'd never heard of Toastmasters before. So she took me to the first meeting. It was in 2012. And I'll never forget just sitting there, and there's this group of strangers in a business setting. And I was not going to speak. She says, don't worry, you don't have to say anything. And I did not. I was petrified.
I did the same thing. Trust me, I did the same thing. And it's so funny how similar you're saying that, because for me, it's one of my friends. She went looking for all the Toastmasters that I can go to. She's like, I went to this thing and I saw it at Toastmasters, and you can go to that. And she just looked at every, like, she would just send me, it has a Toastmaster this time. It took me a year. When she bugged me enough, I just say, look, I gotta find the Toastmasters that I'll be comfortable with. And because I was so much stronger in my faith, that I wanted something faith-based. And for me, still not in my comfort zone, going just with strangers, I just decided, okay. And that's when I found the Toastmasters that I joined. But still, I didn't speak much. But, eventually you get there. So it's like this thing. Somebody signed me up for Toastmasters.
Yeah, it was life-changing. I still look back and just can't even believe where I am now, who I am. I'm like, who is this girl?
Yeah, I can't believe that. Yeah, we live right now. I don't think I would be here where I'm at right now, interviewing you.
Right. Right. And that's how you know when God orders your steps and you follow them, it led us right here, right now. Because both of us were obedient in taking that step and, having the courage to step up. And then we end up being division directors together. And that was just one of the most incredible years.
I know. I love that. Yes, I miss that. But I'm not, I think after that, I realized that God is ready for me to do something else.
Yes.
Yeah, He's ready for me to do something else. And I'm so happy that I was able to do that and was able to meet you. And I'm happy that you came on board with Joyful Hearts. And I know it's going to be a phenomenal year coming on, and we're going to be helping so many, teaming up with other nonprofit team. It's going to be a way. I think we're going to be traveling a lot doing this, and that's what I say. I'm the visionary. I tell everybody that I'm just a visionary. It goes into all the stuff. So, but we have a great team right now, and I am so grateful for that. But that's so good. So we are almost about time to finish this. So
wow.
I know you started your own, let's say, marketing. You did marketing for the nonprofits, and I know you started what do you call it? Website building or helping people host their websites and stuff like that. And I know you were just the public relations officer for Toastmasters, and that's a lot of experience, right?
That's a lot of work.
That you have learned about that. How was that for you? And I know that has helped you to. So we look at if I can, you can is where you came from. So you came from. We know that we heard that story where you came from abuse, sexual, physical, every abuse in life, and now you are coming to the new you. Okay, because you said you knew adventures in your midlife, right? And so you can tell me how I know you with Tony Robbins and Dean Gracia. I know I did all their trainings. I used to go on and listen to that. That helped me a lot too. And so now that you're into that new beginning, that new stage, because we want people to see, no matter what you go through in life, no matter what you go through, you can always come out like the rose in the end.
Yes.
So just that's a little bit about this new venture you're on, and I know you're going to be great at it. So
thank you. I'm looking forward to writing more chapters in my life. That it's whatever. It could be whatever I imagine it to be, or wherever God leads me at this point. It really just blows my mind thinking about where I came from, like I said, and where I am now, and then where can I go from here? If you can look at the first half of my life to getting here, the possibilities are endless. on what I can do with the second half.
Right.
And I know especially teaming up with you is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to impact so many lives.
Right. All right. So we can tell people where they can reach you because somebody's looking to build a website. So I'm going to tell you out there. Today we are with AJ Lee, a phenomenal friend of mine. And we can say we are sisters. And she built my websites. If you want to go on Facebook, Notary, Deb's Notary, DVA Notary, you can see
DBA Notary,
yeah,
DBA.
see the
Jordan.
website. And she can tell you how you can reach her because you know she's coming from one part of her life, so she's into the new beginnings of her life. So come out to support her, come out and trust me, I am a customer already. We are looking for sure.
Customer and biggest fan, I think. It's been a joy working with you too, building your website. Just in the last year, like you said, learning what I did in public relations manager role, I actually did more of the marketing side because with the last year and everything we've been through, it's been a bit of a challenge, but finding the opportunities and where we need to grow and to catch up, especially with our district. We were really lacking in social media. We were lacking on our website. We were lacking, just in our marketing and things that we could do. So I really made myself a student over the last year and taught myself how to build a website on WordPress, how to get out there and put advertisements on social media in Facebook and LinkedIn, and learning how to do automations on ActiveCampaign. There's just so many things that I've been blessed to learn and have that experience over the last year that I was able to, you said you needed this, and I said, okay, I can do it now.
You did it. You still have a lot of work for me to do.
Yes.
You did it. And you know what? I appreciate it. And that's when we get closer. We both got closer because you got to know who I am and I got to know who you were. So
yes.
That is so and I'd say to our audience out there, sometimes God, as I always say, God has a sense of humor. As you say, God knows what's gonna happen to you in your life and we doesn't know. We want to know before he really reveals it. AJ and I worked together as this division, 2 years straight because I was, you were in division, I can't remember exactly, but we worked as division directors and we had that bond between 5 or 6 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it just came to that we started doing things together. But then in the end, AJ and I just started getting closer. I just didn't know why, how, but I was just attracted to you in a sense, probably because I was quiet one, and you're the one who's always like, crazy looking, like, you're always like laughing or joking around.
Free spirit.
It was so funny, but the thing about it, but now and then we talked and you said, oh, what do you do with Joyful Hearts? And I'm like, oh, that's my girl because, somebody pulled me up to it. So I am so grateful that God put us together in our life. And I would say, and we are about to finish and say, go out there, look on her Facebook page, AJ Lee, support her. It's like support another woman out there, another woman in business. Please support her. And she can do a phenomenal job for you because she did a great job for me in my website. So go on and look for DBA Notary on Facebook and you're going to see what she did on my Facebook page. So I want you to leave a last message with our audience all over the world right now. What would you leave for a woman or man who has been abused, what they went through, but what they come to know, some like good word of encouragement for them?
Oh, absolutely. Just don't give up. That would be my first thing. Just, I know what it's like to be in the valley and you're not going to be there forever. There is a point when you come out of that and you just have to have faith and hold on to that and just work. Sometimes it just takes a lot of work to have that moment where you can reflect and look back and then look at yourself in the mirror as well and realize you're worthy. You have value still, no matter what you've been through, there's still value within you. And I promise you, it's there. God will show it to you when you're when you want it, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to our audience again. If I can, you can. This is Deborah, and I'm streaming from Africa. So I know last week I told you that I would be in Africa, and I'm here now. And again, I would love you to please go on. And during the week, as time goes on, I will be showing you snippets of the kids out there and what we are doing out there, and so I still want you to go onto our Facebook page, please, and donate from Benin Ghana Mission, or go on to GoFundMe, look for Benin Ghana Mission, and donate to have these kids, because these kids out here and these families out here need your help, especially the orphanages. They need your help. And I'll show you some snippets sometime pretty soon during the week. You're going to see snippets coming on. If you join our page, you're going to see more, and I'll try to go live according to the internet. So thank you again for coming on, and we're going to see you next week.